Hi, and welcome to another episode of Holistic Stroke Solutions, where we dive into the loose ends and missing links in stroke rehabilitation and go way beyond the conventional rehabilitation protocols. In this episode, we're going to cover exercises you can do in your home to build from the ground up. My name is Dr. Arjan Kuipers. I'm a clinician. I have a main interest in neuroscience and stroke rehabilitation. I do this together with Linda Radestad, a stroke survivor herself. She survived a severe stroke. She's an author now, inventor, and she just brought out her second book, Stroke Rebel 2. Now, what are we going to cover in this episode? We're going to talk about the right sequence of doing your exercises. In previous episodes, we explained how we build from the ground up, meaning we are going through the basic movement sequences that you have when you're a baby. We start on the back, we start rolling, we start do exercise on the side, then we end up on the floor on all fours, and then we go into arm swing, walking, arm swing, training your arm swing, and carrying, loading your arm. All of these topics we talked about and the reason why we are using this. Now we're going to share what you can do in your home situation and also what we have done with our clients, our intensive stroke rehabilitation clients, and what Linda has done herself to recover beyond what she did with the traditional rehabilitation. Now, before I start, in the very end, I'm going to share with you how you can accelerate this training, how to make it more easy. Make no mistake, we understand that everything that I'm going to show you and share with you today, we know that it is hard work, you will need a lot of repetition, and sometimes it almost seems impossible. You are not the only one experiencing this. Many have gone before you and managed in the end to do these exercises and reap the benefits from them. I want to emphasize again, before explaining the exercise, that it is not a good idea to just jump into walking, trying to make a hand or an arm work through exercises when the whole nervous system extremities are disconnected, they are not synchronized. With the exercise we are sharing in this episode, you're going to do the prep work for all the other things you are doing. If you do these things right, you will see that all the other efforts you put into rehabilitation will work much better, because it's all about reconnecting and resynchronizing your nervous system. So, where do you start? Like I said, think about a baby. From the ground up, you start on the back. A baby has random movements because it has built-in reflexes at the spinal cord and brainstem level, and it can make random movements. And then when it has interactions with his or her environment, the movements start to become more and more complex. And that's exactly what you are going to reproduce in your stroke rehabilitation, stroke training at home. So we have our friend Superman again, and I have put him on the back because that's where you're going to start. Now, before you make complex movements, we have to make sure that your stability, your core stability is all right. The inbuilt reflexes, the connections between the arms to make like a crawling movement or walking movement, they are already built in. But what is often missing is the stability of the trunk around the shoulders and the hips. So we start on the back with so-called isoclam exercises. Now, and I emphasize this again also, first we start with breathing. We breathe, we anchor, and we engage our core. So if an exercise doesn't work out, remember that you focus on your breathing. Try to breathe lower down into your belly or in your heart area. And every time you something doesn't work out for you, you focus on your breathing and you will see that you have more anchor afterwards, and the exercise can actually work out that way. Many times with our clients, when an exercise is messy, they don't get it to work for them, we just simply ask them to breathe low down into the belly, and we often see that suddenly all the exercise clicks. So remember to breathe, and with these exercises, and again I'm going to share with you more information where you can see how you do these exercises step by step, but I want you to get the idea what you're doing. On the back, static, watch your breathing, put the shoulders and the hips into place in a natural way. We call this scaption and hiption, meaning that the arms face this way. So this is the way the shoulder joint is facing. And also if you look at this is the way, actually this was anatomically correct, this is the way the hips are facing. So this is the correct position. Now, of course, when you are spastic and you are weak on one side, you want to prop the arm and the leg up to begin with, and we often recommend to put the leg on the floors to start off with. This is too hard for the core, and we often we see with our clients that they experience back problems when they do it like this. So the legs are on the floor, and we can focus on the weak side. So first of all, we hold the shoulder blades in place, and we try to engage the lower abdomen and the glute muscles. And again, we will give more information where you can find detailed procedures for these exercises. These are the so-called isoclams, and from here we're going to move in a natural pattern. And natural inbuilt pattern means that when this arm moves up, this leg moves up at the same time. This one comes down and this one comes down. That is the natural coupled interlimb coupling that we have in our spinal cord and in our brainstem. So we move this arm up and we move this leg up. And of course you can do this with help. That is preferential. If you do that, you can practice this in your mind. You can just, even if you can move it a millimeter to start off with, that is where we start. And no one can, when they have experienced spasticity or weakness after a stroke, can do these exercises right from the bed. But first we focus on the static holds with the legs on the floor. That is where, and on the breathing, tightening the buttocks, getting the feeling there, and keeping the shoulders in place, down, and not even squeeze them together, but keep them in that place. Squeeze the buttocks and focus on the breathing and just hold. This is the position where you already train your shoulders and legs to have more stability when you're actually going to move. When you move, we do this in a diagonal pattern because the good leg, in this case, if this is the weak arm, will help the weak arm to engage in this exercise. And ideally, in the end, we want all fours to move. So that is where we start. Now, remember, a baby starts on the back and has random movements, but a baby starts to roll eventually, and that's exactly what we are going to do. We're going to engage the shoulders and the hips and the movements of the arm and the leg in a side-lying position. So we actually copy this ontogenetic progression of movement patterns onto the side, and we try to keep the arm statically in position and the leg static in position. And again, ideally we lie on the good side and we have the weak side up. And again, we can support it. Someone can hold your arm, or you don't want to have your arm too high up. That's very important. So again, think about this is the natural anatomical position. We want to keep the arms in this position. You can prop the arm up on pillows, same with the leg. So that is the natural progression. First we do the static holds, the so-called isoclam exercise, where we really engage the glute muscles, one of the strongest muscles of your body, or at least it should be. Not feeling your leg tighten or your back tighten. watch your breathing, and keep the arm also in a static position. And from here on, we're going to move. And then in this position, we keep the lower arm and leg static, and we move the arm and the leg in opposite positions. And later we can add fixations of the head, looking at a point where we couple the spinal cord brainstem with the higher brain centers. So from there we go to the stomach. So we want you to be on all fours. If you cannot crawl in any way, which is hard in the beginning as well, you just stand on all fours with support, of course. You can put things under your belly if you cannot hold this position. And from there on, we try to progress. Again, you watch your stability, buttocks, shoulder position, so you provide the stability that is necessary for movement. We move one arm forward and the opposite leg we move forward as well. You can do this in little steps. First the arm, doesn't matter how much effort it takes, then the opposite good leg. Then we can at the same time try to put the other good arm backwards and get the leg on the affected side backwards. So we start to initiate the crawling movement, and we can do this completely flat on the floor, the creeping and the crawling, or on all fours and move that way. Incredibly important, because this loads the shoulders in a completely natural way, just like the kettlebell exercise that we described in previous episodes. So from the back to the side, first static, then active, and on to all fours. And again, we understand this is very difficult to start off with, but we know with all of our clients, including Linda herself, if you do this for many weeks on end, many months on end, you get good at it, and in the end it will really help to build your nervous system, rebuild, reconnect, and re-engage the central nervous system and the limbs by going to the proper sequence of development and not going straight to the arm or the leg. So from here we're going to we can either use, for example, we want to engage the shoulder. We can do this in two ways. We can do this statically with a kettlebell. This is Linda's kettlebell actually. She's sitting opposite of me right now. This is quite a heavy kettlebell. In the previous episodes I already told, we know from research that you can have a load of half a kilo, 1.5 kilos, 2 kilos, and then progress to a more heavy kettlebell. You can load both arms, not just the affected arm, and you can start walking around. What it will do, it will not just give your hand something to do, give the hand purpose. The hand is the most human part with speech. The hand needs something to do. It should not just hang there and be disengaged and disconnected from your brain, not having a purpose. Giving something into even a spastic hand, you can use a strap around it, will really help load the shoulders. There we have the shoulders again. We have a static load that is absolutely natural. You can hold a lot of weight on even sore shoulders. It can be a way to actually rehabilitate the shoulder when it's really painful and dysfunctional. And it will really help load your body. You're going to adapt your posture, your center of pressure in a more correct way. We often see that we have a big effect on the hyperextension of the knee when we start walking with a load. And of course you can start with just holding it statically in position and then start to walk with help. And it's like a journey of 1,000 miles just starts with one movement in this case. And that goes for all the exercise that we have described until now. Then what we do, and we can use different types of weights, of course. You can even have these bar weights that you can hold if that's easier with spasticity. then we can progress to the Nordic walking sticks. And again, I know this may seem completely ridiculous at this point and almost impossible. For example, Linda just dragged the stick with the affected arm in the beginning, but now she has a perfectly nice arm swing again. But that only came about by months and months and years of training. Now, to recapitulate, we start on the back, just like a baby. First, we practice the static loading of the shoulders and the hips. And I will tell you very soon where you can find more information and detailed examples of how you can do this. So-called isoclam exercise on the side. Then you can start to make opposite movements, crossed movements, so the opposite leg goes in the same direction as the arm. Up and down. I would start more down to begin with, because going all the way up is just more difficult, and especially when you experience shoulder pains. It's a safe exercise to do, very powerful to engage your core, and also it's the basis for active movement. So then we engage the crossed movements, which engages not just at a spinal level or brainstem, but it also engages at in between the hemispheres. This is how your hemispheres start to develop and start to disinhibit each other. So we start using actually the affected hemisphere that's often suppressed due to the stroke. Then we move on to the side, just as a child starts to learn to roll itself. We engage the vestibular system by going on the side. First we start with the static position again, and from this static position we start to move the arm and the leg in a opposite direction. And again, it's okay to just have like a fraction of a centimeter of movement to begin with. That's the start. You will see if you hang in there for many weeks, usually up to 3-4 months, you will get better and better quality movement. And from there on, you will see that all efforts to improve walking, manipulating your hand or your arm will improve. In fact, Linda uses these exercises to this day, and again we have developed machines to really get the repetition in. It not just improves the stability of the shoulders, the hip while walking and walking itself, it really increased the speed of walking and her language. And again, think about what we are doing with the opposite movements is we start to engage the higher brain centers, and we disinhibit, so the weak side of the brain, if that's the language area, in that case, we release it so it will be more easy to speak fluently and more articulate. And that is actually why we want you to go through all these sequences and not just go to speech therapy or hand therapy or walking therapy. So from the side we move onto all fours. You can just do static loading, going back forward to the sides and loading your shoulders and hips. That will be very powerful, but in the end we want you to start to move one hand forward and one knee, the opposite knee, the crossed movement, the coupling that is naturally there and is not affected usually by your stroke unless you have a stroke at a spinal cord level, which is very rare. Now, in the links below this video, we have a very powerful link to the free brain.rehab, to the brain.rehab site, where we have a free portal with basic exercises. We go at length in the videos into these foundational exercises, so you will find all the examples that you need to get these type of exercises going. Then I also want to make you aware of the fact that, of course, when you do these exercises and once you start doing the crossed movements, you will need to have the repetition in and you will have the intensity in, because we want to reconnect, resynchronize. Everything has to move at the same time. Now that is really hard when you start with this, and you will not be able to get so many repetitions in. That is why we developed tools to train at home with that can actually help with getting all of this repetition in that is needed for the proper neuroplasticity, reconnection and synchronizing. We put that link in also if you want to learn more on these machines that can help really fast forwarding this development. So that concludes this episode. I hope this was interesting for you. I would really emphasize these exercises. Without them, your recovery will not be the same. So please start today with implementing these exercises. You can start with just one and then slowly build to add the others. Start on the back, on the side, on the front, on all fours. Start loading your shoulders and then start actually moving with, for example, Nordic walking sticks, or use one of the machines. See you in the next episode. If you have not already done so, please subscribe to our channel so you will be notified for new episodes. Thank you so much.